chapter 29, section 3. So the Catholic Church realizes they've got to start making some changes. And so we're going to enter a period here in the Catholic Church called the Counter-Reformation or Catholic Reformation. You know, this was the steps that the Catholic Church took to reform, strengthen, and spread Catholicism. So let's start here with Ignatius of Loyola. He's going to be a Spanish noble who dedicated his life to God and the Catholic Church. In 1540, he is going to found the Society of Jesus. The members of the Society of Jesus were called Jesuits. They spread Catholic ideas. They wanted to persuade the Protestants to come back. They were known for wearing black robes. They lived very simple lives, founded many colleges and seminaries. They sent out missionaries. The Jesuits were actually the first to carry Catholicism to Asia. The Pope is going to try to strengthen the church. At the Council of Trent, you're going to have a council of bishops that are going to meet in Trent, Italy. And they're going to try to deal with all the church's problems. But they didn't change basic teachings, okay, as they met here at the Council of Trent. What they said was only the church can explain the Bible. You know, you need both faith and good works to be saved. They said the Pope was the highest and final authority in the church, and masses can only happen in Latin. So they didn't change a lot of that stuff, but there were some reforms that they did change. For example, they banned the sale of indulgences. They tightened the discipline for the clergy, and they said only the worthy should enter the clergy. So they created seminars to train priests in the ways of being a priest. So let's move on to chapter 29, section 4 now. And let's go back to England. The Reformation in England is going to go down a little bit different. The Reformation in England is going to be tied to a political struggle. There's going to be a struggle between the Tudor king, Henry VIII, and Pope Clement VII. It's not going to be a religious issue until later. It starts off as a political thing in England. So the trouble is going to begin in 1527. Henry VIII had married or was married to Catherine of Aragon. Catherine of Aragon was the daughter of Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain. Henry and Catherine have one living child, Mary. Henry is worried that Catherine can't have any more kids, and Henry wants a son. He wants a son to succeed him on the throne. It also doesn't help that Henry was in love with Anne Boleyn. So Henry wants the Pope to annul his marriage to Catherine because the church did not do divorce. So he wants him to annul it. You know, the church didn't allow divorce. Catherine is going to complain to her nephew. Her nephew was Charles V, the German emperor. So the Pope refuses the annulment, which ticks off Henry because he wants a son and he's in love with Anne and he wants to no longer be married to Catherine. So Henry is going to declare that the Pope has no power in England, to which the Pope excommunicated Henry. But Henry didn't care. So the Pope has no power there. Henry is going to name Thomas Cranmer Archbishop of Canterbury. This is the highest church official in England. Thomas Cranmer is going to annul Henry's marriage to Catherine of Aragon. So in 1533, Henry is going to marry Anne Boleyn, and they have a daughter named Elizabeth. In 1534, Parliament is going to pass the Act of Supremacy, which made the king the head of the Church of England. And if you refuse to follow this, you could be executed as a heretic. Now, Henry, married to Anne Boleyn, eventually has Anne Boleyn executed for treason. Henry will now marry Jane Seymour. Jane gives Henry a son, Edward. All in all, Henry's going to end up being married a total of 6 times because he wanted a son. When Henry ends up dying, Edward VI, remember I said that he already had a son named Edward with James Seymour. Edward VI becomes king. He's 9 years old, and he's very sickly. Actually, a council of nobles is going to rule England, because, Edward VI was 9. And they're really going to advance the Protestant ideas in England. Thomas Cranmer, Archbishop of Canterbury, highest church official in England, supports the council, and he writes the Book of Common Prayer, which was used in all churches in England, and it helped them provide an orderly worship service for the Church of England. Well, Edward ends up dying in 1553 at the age of 15. And the crown then goes to Mary. Remember, she was the daughter of Henry and then Catherine of Aragon. Issue is, Mary was a devout Catholic. And she marries the Catholic king of Spain, Philip II. People were afraid that Philip and the Pope, since they're both Catholic, is actually going to control England. Mary is going to order the persecution of English Protestants who wouldn't go back to being Catholic. And there were a lot that refused. They wanted nothing to do with being Catholic. She's actually going to have over 300 burnt at the stake for heresy, including Thomas Cranmer. Mary actually is going to get the nickname Bloody Mary. The people of England want a Protestant ruler. They don't see themselves as Catholic anymore. They don't want a Catholic ruler. When Mary dies in 1558, Elizabeth takes over. So remember, Elizabeth was the daughter of Henry and Anne Boleyn. Actually, Elizabeth is going to rule England for 45 years. Elizabeth ended the Pope's authority in the English church once and for all. She set up a church that people liked. It was Protestant, but she kept some of the Catholic features that people were familiar with and liked. Some in the church, though, didn't like those Catholic elements, and they become known as Puritans.